me plug these in. Comments that I want you to know, whether you're watching this live or whether you watch this when it's uploaded later. Do you think that the game of golf has a problem with the golf ball? So, do you think that there's a problem with the golf ball going too far? Does it go too far? Okay. And number two, and why is that a problem? And number two, the second thing I want to know is, okay, if you do think that it goes too far, or there's a problem with the distance of the golf ball and that it's hurting the game at all different levels, what do you think should be done about it? All right, so let's go. So out of nowhere, the USGA, who makes the rules for the game of golf, that goes over the PGA Tour, the R&A, and all these things. So let's go back to 2002. So, hold on a second. We're not going to 2002. All right. So this is what they just wrote. I got to get this thing out of the way. And you guys are already making a lot of comments already, which I really appreciate. We're going to get to all your guys' comments. So I flood it up. Like, really let me know, even if you don't have any definite opinion yet. All right. So we're going to skip down. Let's go through some of this. The rules of golf state that the fundamental principle that golf is a challenging game in which success should depend on a player's judgment, skills, and abilities, okay? That is really crucial for what they're thinking with this stuff. The equipment rules likewise seek to protect the traditions of the game to prevent an over-reliance on technological advances rather than on practice and skill, and to preserve skill differentials throughout the game. An enduring foundation of golf is that success is getting a ball from the tee to the hole in the fewest strokes should depend on using many different skills and judgments rather than be dominated by only a few. In our view, it is essential to keep this to remain true for play at the diverse golf courses across the world without need for them to get longer and longer. Okay? The issue of hitting distance raises vital issues in these respects as reflected in the R&A and USGA's 2002 Joint Statement of Principles on Distance. Now this is insane because now they're telling us, oh yeah, look at this statement we made in 2002 that says the ball goes too far. Well, 18 years has gone by. So like, what's going on? If it was really hurting the game, either they didn't have the guts to go, if they really felt it, they didn't have the guts to go up against the golf industry and an army full of lawyers to make the changes that they wanted. Or, they started making so many incremental changes, like with the Adam Scott and Webb Simpson long putters, and they started making changes to the square grooves and all this stuff. But they never got to the heart of the matter, which was the golf ball, and that's the thing that a lot of people are saying. All right, so this is the 2002 statement on principles of distance. Any further significant increases in hitting distances at the highest level are undesirable. Whether these increases emanate from advancing equipment technology, greater athleticism of players, improved player coaching, golf course conditioning, or a combination of these or other factors, they will have the impact of seriously reducing the challenge of the game. The consequential lengthening or toughening of courses would be costly or impossible and would have a negative effect on increasingly important environmental and ecological issues. Pace of play would be slowed and playing costs would increase. Okay, so that's what they said in 2002. So now we're back to just a couple days ago's report. Since that time, hitting distances at the highest level have continued to increase. Moreover, as explained below, there has been a continuing thread of increases in hitting distances for more than a century, and that upward direction is expected to continue in the future. So they're saying it's a rise that has been rising since more than a century. So I guess we're talking about since the days of like the first US Open, right? It's been going up and up and up since then. Since that time, all right, today we are publishing the Distance Insights Project Report to provide a comprehensive understanding of the past, present, and the future impact of distance to support a sustainable future for golf. This paper accompanies the Distance Insights report and provides our conclusions from this project. Part 1, Part 2, and here's a summary of conclusions. Let's just skip to the for their points. Okay, we won't go through the whole thing. Let's just skip to their points. USGA are saying, first, the inherent strategic challenge presented by many golf courses can be compromised, especially when those courses have not or cannot become long enough to keep up with the increases in hitting distances of the golfers who play from their longest tees. And then here's the bullet points. Increased hitting distance can lead to a reduction in the variety, length, and creativity of shot types needed on such courses, and to holes more often being overpowered by distance, and as well as increased emphasis on the importance of distance and the expense of accuracy and other skills. This can begin to undermine the core principle that the challenge of golf is about using a broad range of skills and making risk-rewards judgments during a round. The result is also that an increased number of such courses, both widely renowned and less well-known, are at risk of becoming less challenging or ultimately obsolete for those who play from the longest tees, which would be a serious loss for the game. Second, the overall trend of golf courses becoming longer has its own adverse consequences that ultimately affect golfers at all levels and the game as a whole. Expanding existing courses and building longer new ones often require significant capital investment and higher annual operating costs. Overall, the trend towards longer courses puts golf at odds with the growing societal concerns about use of water, chemicals, and other resources, the pressures for development restrictions and alternative land use, and the need to mitigate the long-term effects of a changing climate and natural environment, whatever that means. And anyway, so the real thing when you talk to like golfers like us and everything, the real thing is time. You know, how long it takes to the game. So that I think also could be a bullet point in here. It's like, okay, it's just gonna take you longer to play a 7,200 yard course than it is to take you to play a 6,600 yard course. It's gonna take longer. Not just because the walk is longer, but because there's more, it's just going to be, you know, there's more opportunities to hit your ball into the deep woods and everything. Golf has been infested by Greta Thunberg, somebody just wrote. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Is she out for golf as well? But the main thing all right, so let's go to Mike Davis is the head of the USGA, and he stated when he came in, like his thing that he wants to do is he wants to fix the golf ball. He thinks that the golf ball goes too far, and he thinks that it is, there has to be something done to it. So, which is why it was so surprising a couple years ago, they came out with this study that showed that, like, if you look at like the handicap golfers from 0 to 5, it stayed the same. From 5 to 10, it stayed the same. From 10 to 20, it stayed the same. From 20 and above, it's really stayed within about a yard. And some of these results, like, because I've looked into the results of it, it's a little bit, some of the results, it's a little bit too cherry picked, where like they'll kind of pick the year that they want to start it, you know, rather than everybody starting in the same year. They say, okay, let's go from 2000, let's go from 2003. So it's a little bit cherry picked, but now let's get to the part of the video where I give my opinion, and then I want to hear your guys' opinions. So start filling up the comments with all your opinions. And this is gonna, even if you're not watching this live, I want to see like lots of comments. And be sure, if you're watching this, take 1 second and hit the like button, because I want this video to go, and all your guys' ideas to go up to the USGA. I know that the director of amateur status, very famously, had been emailing me constantly from the USGA, so I know that they watched the channel and did not want me playing in any more amateur golf tournaments. So anyway, hit the like button. All right, so here's my opinion on it is that it seems to me that when they put out all this data, it seems to me that it's like, all right, well, what are you going to believe? Are you going to believe our study that shows all these things, or your lying eyes? Because everyone I know, like I know 70-year-old golfers who they say, I'm definitely hitting it further today than I was in the year 2000 with that equipment. I know there's a guy that plays at our club, 90 years old. He's hitting the same distance that he hit it when he was 70. The ball's going the same distance. This is just for the amateur level. And then if you look at the If you look at the highest level of the game, which is what I think this is directed towards, if you look at the highest level of the game, they're like markedly hitting it further. Maybe not so much in the last like 6 years, 7 years, but they are hitting it a little further. But since 2000 or so, they're hitting it like much, much further. There's a great video. If you go on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, bb_golf show. But Jonathan Yarwood just did a video. It's not scientific, but I think it still proves a really good point. So Jonathan Yarwood in South Carolina teaches at like I think the IGA Academy. He's got a TrackMan there. So he did a little thing where he had a Bellata ball and a persimmon driver, right? And he had this kid who like swings his driver like, I don't know, he's a super athletic, great golfer. And he had the kid hit the persimmon golf club and the Bellata ball. And that came up to 233 yards carry and like 236 total. This kid who's like, a tour level speed was hitting it. Then he took the modern ball, like this one, and the modern driver, and he hit those, and he hit a 308. So it was like, it was, so like 303 carry, 308 total, something like that. So it was just like unbelievable, the distance between what the game was. That was probably like 1986 Jack's, Masters kind of equipment to today. So that's just so different. So everybody's talking about like, well, really does the distance that the golf ball is going ruin the game? And my opinion on it, that I can tell from that the USGA is doing kind of a bad job expressing this, but this is the thing, is they want golf to be a balance of skills. They want it to be like putting, short game, accuracy. They want it to be like a balance of all the different skills of golf. And I think it's their position that the golf ball and the club and the graphite shafts, which makes a huge, huge difference, probably maybe one of the biggest differences. When you put that all together, now the balance of skills required to play golf at the highest level, it is starting to skew extremely, like having the long ball, having that ability to hit it in the 180s ball speed. Some guys are 190s ball speed playing professional golf. That is skewed the skills where hitting that long ball is so important. And especially if you look at Richie Hunt's data analysis, he does data stuff for the PGA, for a lot of PGA Tour players like Charles Howell III, Tony Finau, these guys. He shows that your driver, the number one thing that determines how close your putts are is how far and straight you're hitting your drive. So the better you're hitting your drive, that's the thing that is getting, when it all comes down to it, that's the thing that correlates most closely to your the length of your first putt. It's not really like that you have this great wedge game or that you're really controlling your irons or that you're being so accurate. It's your driver. And the longer the driver goes, the more skewed it is to that skill. I know that, as this is anecdotal, obviously, but I was watching Xander Schauffele play with Dean Wilson and Jeff Ogilvy and Chris Riley, all guys that have been on the PGA Tour, all guys that have won on the PGA Tour. But obviously, Xander Schauffele is like in the top 10 in the world, and this was just like 2 months ago. Xander Schauffele is in the top 10 in the world, and these guys are all older golfers, right? And so Xander, now normally, in a normal game of golf, Xander is able to be in the top 10 in the world, and these guys are either like forgotten golfers or on to their next phase of life. Like Chris Riley's the coach of the USD golf team. Dean is doing other stuff with like just other stuff. He's retired from professional golf basically, and Jeff Ogilvy's still playing, but at a lower level. But so they're totally different as far as like their skill to play the game of golf with the modern clubs and modern ball. But when I was watching these guys play, and it really hit me, they were using a persimmon driver in this small tournament that they played in this kind of fun day tournament down at Goat Hill Golf Course. And with the persimmon driver, all four of these guys using it, they were hitting it. I mean, Xander Schauffele, he would hit his driver way past Dean Wilson with a normal driver, like way past, probably like 35 yards or something. And he would hit it way past Chris Riley for sure, you know, who whatever. He would hit it 30 yards past Dean and Chris. But when they all had the persimmon driver, Xander Schauffele was only hitting it 5 yards, 8 yards past these guys. It was there was no major difference. That separation, like these guys, they could have a legitimate competition against each other because Xander was not just like dusting them with the driver so that he had 30, like a totally different club into the green. So, and that was with the persimmon club, and then the guys were using the modern ball. So that, like, I was kind of on the fence about it, but that really made me start thinking. And then I asked Jeff Ogilvy, I said, hey, like, what's a better game? Is the game with the modern driver better, or is the game with the persimmon driver better? And he was flip-flopping about that a little bit, but he did say that when you hit the persimmon club in the center, it's about like 11 miles an hour ball speed different. But if you hit it a little off center, like, and you saw that when I played with these guys, and you used to see this more on they would just, on the tour a while ago, if they hit it off center, which they did 3 or 4 times, even though they're great players, it would just be like a shrimp. It would just go in the woods, and it was like it would die. So instead of it going 250 yards down the middle, it would go like 210 or 211 and be out into the rough. So it's a totally different game. And Jeff didn't give me a clear answer on, okay, which game is better. But I think that right now the distance has totally skewed golf so that it has become so important. Like you see all the guys are working, like even like Brian Gay, who's never made his money on distance or anything. Like he is like obsessively working on increasing his distance. I think it's a lot like the 3-point shot in the NBA, where it was always known that distance was good, and it was always known that the 3-point shot was 1 point more. But in the NBA recently, they've just in the last 8 years, they've found out that like, hey, like getting 50% more points is way worth the risk. We need to be taking this shot and getting good at this shot way better. And now it's totally changed the game. And in the same way, since maybe Tiger or whatever else, not only the equipment changing and making people able to hit the ball a lot further, but also just the concentration on it. Like guys are really working at it. And the other point that a lot of people make is about the athletes. You hear this a lot. They say, oh, the athletes are so much better now. Everybody's bigger, everybody's stronger, everybody's working out in the gym. It doesn't matter. I mean, it matters, but it's not a big deal. Like if you think about golf in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, where athletes weren't as big, the best players were playing golf and they were adjusting to what was, like you were getting the guys that were best for the game at the way the game was then. If back then there was a set of golfers from some country or something that were building up their bodies and really getting strong, we would have seen it. Like it's a natural selection type of thing. If in Jack Nicklaus's day and Gary Player's day and Arnold Palmer's day, if being really huge and swinging the club really fast would have been this gigantic advantage to the game back then, we would have seen guys like that happen. Those guys would have been naturally pushed to the top. So the way that the game is now, and this might not make sense to anybody, but the way that the game is now, the game is much more advantageous for the game the way it is set up now with the equipment now, and also the agronomy of how fast that the fairways run, that really athletic golfers and stuff are going to succeed in the game the way it is now. I don't know that Brooks Koepka or Dustin Johnson or any of these guys, like I'm sure they would be great tour players back in the 70s, but I don't know that them swinging the style they do and swinging and using the kind of muscular kind of swing they're using now, that might have not helped them very much. Even like Tiger in his younger days, like when he was swinging it so fast, like it wasn't a muscle bound kind of thing. It was a very sinewy and loose thing that had a lot of like late speed. And one of the big reasons for that, I think, is just the steel shaft has made a huge difference on how you can swing the golf club. if it's a graphite shaft, you can swing it totally different, totally different. So so I think the balance is out of character. So now let's get into, so I do think that something needs to be done about distance, because they're saying, okay, it's not, a lot of the data people will say it's not changed for amateur golfers at all. People hit it the same length. Well, if people are hitting it the same length, but golf courses are getting further because the top end guys are hitting it really far, then that's making the game effectively much more difficult for regular golfers. So people are saying, well, this doesn't matter for anybody that's not playing a PGA Tour course or some kind of course that's like super long. It doesn't matter to just the general golfer. That's not true, because let's think about, I'm here in Long Beach, and we have the Long Beach Open, and we also have the Long Beach Golf Festival, which is a series of very prestigious amateur tournaments. So with those, the college kids were coming out and playing in those tournaments and just destroying like these courses. They were just like, it's like an eagle putt on the back nine of the one course, Recreation Park. Somebody said in a vlog that I did, it's like an eagle putt every hole. So not because of the PGA Tour, but because of college players and elite level amateurs, they did a whole redesign on the golf course. They put in new bunkers. They changed the slope of some of the greens. A lot of new bunkers. That was mostly what it was. Changed some of the tees. I mean, there's not much room to go. But that's a great case where, okay, golf had to spend a lot of money to accommodate for the elite level players, and the regular golfers, they're still going to be hitting at the same distance, but now they have to shoot scores on a harder course, and that's just here. The other thing is the Long Beach Open. So the Long Beach Open used to happen on one course, and they built, as the ball got longer, like in 2005 or 6, they built an entire new course just for the Long Beach Open to attract that. And so it really works from the top down, because I wanted to get a rubber band to show you. So like imagine I have 5 points, and those are the 5 different handicaps on a rubber band, right? So this is elite, like PGA Tour players. This is like college players and 0 handicaps, 10 handicaps, 20 handicaps, like that. As the distances get longer for everybody, and they go like that, now you're seeing a PGA Tour player hitting a 5-iron 200 yards, and this guy, so it's going from the top there, and this guy is hitting his 5-iron, like say like 5 yards further. But the tour player, they're seeing that, and so now everybody is trying to catch up to the distances that they see on TV. So it really feeds down. Golf feeds down from the television set to everyone. So it really affects everybody in that way. So if the golf ball is going too far, what can we do about it? One interesting solution that I think Jim Mackay was talking about was, what if there was and I don't know if they could do this. Somebody let me know if you're into golf equipment engineering. Is there a way to put, like, let's say, what would happen if there was a speed limit on the golf ball? So let's say that no matter what you did, this golf ball is only going to go 165 miles an hour. So let's say like once you start hitting it hard enough so that like, so a guy who's hitting a club head speed 110 is making it go 165, but then a guy who's doing club head speed 130, the ball would also just go 165 or maybe just like a little bit over that. There wouldn't be this great, difference as it goes up and up. But then also like but then it would be a normal golf ball for everything under there. There would be just something about the golf ball that would limit it at that extreme velocity of squishiness, so that if it was that way, then there would be like a minimum threshold of hitting your driver. Like you would want to get up to like 105, 110, but it wouldn't be a crazy advantage. It wouldn't be really much advantage at all for your driver to be swinging at 120 miles an hour, because your ball speed's still going to come out. A lot of people are talking about this. And some people said, well, that takes away the advantage of the guys that are working so hard in the gym and doing a lot of things for their driver. But the one thing that I don't think people are thinking of when they think of this is the really huge hitters would still have a great advantage on their their wedges or their 7-irons or their hybrids. Because imagine like a Brian Gay kind of player would be hitting hybrid at 135 miles an hour club head speed, but like a guy like Dustin Johnson could hit his hybrid at 160 miles an hour of ball speed. So it would still be an advantage for Dustin Johnson because he could hit the lower lofted club up to the limit, but it wouldn't be such a wide advantage. And that's what I think the USGA is getting to, where it's they just want the skills to be more equally represented. Right now, they're saying that the skill of hitting your driver long and straight is so like overweighed in its importance that it needs to be brought back into balance a little bit more. And I just want to know from you guys, then I'm going to get to your comments right now. Like, what do you think is a better game? Do you think the game of golf is better for everyone as it was played, or let's pick out a year in 1995, or as it's played in 2020? So we're going to go to your guys' comments now. I'm going to feed backwards. We got 10 more minutes, and then I'm going to, So I go to my top chat here. Cool. So I'm going way back. There's been a lot of comments. I appreciate that, guys. All right, if the rule changes, then Phil won't be hitting bombs anymore. Yeah, well, probably true. But Phil, you could still hit bombs. Maybe you just wouldn't, I don't know. Maybe you just wouldn't hit bombs with your driver. I don't know if that makes sense from what I was saying before. Greater distance is also a handicap. A minor, all right, so this is the other thing for amateurs, when distance gets really, when say somebody who's not a very good golfer can start to hit it really far. The game actually gets, if you have just as much accuracy, but you increase your distance, the game, I think, gets even tougher. So if this is the tee box here, right, and this is the fairway, if you're a short hitter and you do that, you're that far off of the fairway. If you have the same impact parameters, but now you're able to hit it with, say, like 20 miles an hour more ball speed, now that's your shot. Okay, so this is the difference between. So this is the difference between being in the rough when you were a short hitter and having an angle, and being in the trees and having no shot and having to pitch out. So I think that's one of the reasons we've seen like scores haven't really changed very much. Yeah, you're still closer. You're still closer, all things being equal. But you're depending on what course you're playing, you're either in the woods or you're on another golf hole, or it's taking longer. Okay, so then a lot of the comments that I've seen, not here. This is a pretty advanced level of golf for the people who watch Be Better Golf. But a lot of the comments I'm seeing like driver doesn't matter. It's like it's all about getting it in the hole. It's all about short game. Driver matters, and driver's mattering more and more and more every year. I mean, look at what the kids that play college golf are concentrating on. I talked to a lot of college golfers, and they're all working on driver. They're all doing drills and stuff for putting and short game and stuff, but the stuff they're really working on is driver. Because they know, like, if you want to go to the next level, like from college golf to being like a successful pro, the number one skill they're thinking about to be able to make that jump is to be able to hit your driver long and straight. When you have that combo, like a Cameron Champ kind of combo, or a Dustin Johnson kind of combo, or like remember Angel Cabrera, like in the U.S. Open years ago when he hit that perfect drive on Oakmont for the last hole. Like when you have that weapon in your bag, it's so much of a huge advantage. All right, somebody said, all right, Nelson James says 1995 hands down, and I presently hit it long. So the question was, which do you think the game is better, a 1995 game or a? Because the other thing that a lot of people are talking about, the ball goes so far, and then it's having to increase. All the tour courses are having to get longer because par is important. I work in TV, and I can tell you that par is very important because if you ever watch the Shark Shootout or some of these other tournaments that are like insane birdie fests where they're at like in one round they might shoot 12 under, like scramble style or something, or even like if it's like a tournament where it's just a very low scoring, like it's won at 25 under par. It's almost impossible to watch it on TV and really care because let's say Phil Mickelson is on 18 and he's 20 under, and another guy is on 14, and he's 16 under. Your brain has to do the math to say like, okay, Phil will probably finish at 22 under. This guy is at 14 under, but he has more holes left. It just makes it a more difficult viewing experience. So because of that, the par has to be maintained in order to make it a good product to watch on TV. Because then if somebody else is on the third hole and another golfer's on the 17th hole, if they're both at 2 under par, let's just say, and the one guy finishes, then it makes it a much more balanced viewing experience to be able to know like, okay, like this is where the guys stand. If you have to know what hole they're on and where the birdie holes are and stuff, and like that they're gonna be probably keep going lower and lower throughout the round, it like nobody watches those tournaments. Like the Masters, like they want to. That's the ultimate as far as a viewing experience, right? They want to have that at like 9 under par. That makes sense to people. 72 holes, you win it at 9 under or 12 under or something like that. But it affects golf at every level because the tour courses get longer, then all the way down to like the municipal courses. They all have to get longer. And all that stuff has to be watered and maintained and everything else. So that makes prices go up. It's a longer, more difficult course because longer is the number one thing when they're making the handicap of how difficult a course. The length of it is the number one thing because just so much between point A and point B on each shot, so much stuff could go wrong. All right, somebody says, all right, doesn't your handicap make up for the differences between the long distance hitter and someone like me with the high handicap? It does, but the way the handicap system works is it's always supposed to skew 5 to 10% towards the better player. Because so even if like I'm a 0 and you're a 10, when we play against each other using the handicap system, other things being equal, I should still beat you 10% more than you beat me. And the other thing is that when they see these insane distances at the elite level of the game, nobody's going to the red tees and using the forward tees. Nobody, if like very, very few. Now, almost nobody goes all the way to the blacks, but everybody's playing from like the blues or whatever that have been down, and nobody's doing that. Nobody, like the tee it forward thing was a huge failure that Jack Nicklaus and Barbara Nicklaus and a bunch of people did. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's humiliating themselves to walk up there. I mean, I don't care. I do it sometimes because you try to make birdies from the very forward tees. But if you're playing a money match and everything else, it's just not fun to have a whole lot less golf course to play on. You want to play on the golf course like the way that the designer was thinking about it. All right. Chris Baker says a more spinny ball would help. I started playing back in the Bellata days, and you had to square it up to keep the spin down. Yeah, that could help. They would get over that though. Only the best players would be able to do that. Like a more spinny ball would really punish the bad players. I'm liking this speed limited idea. All right, the old game was harder to be proficient in. The game needs to evolve with reasonable regulation, Michael Solinsky says. The game has to be fun. Make it easier for recreation. So this guy's saying bigger golf balls and forward tees. This guy's saying make it easier for the recreational players. So this then brings up the issue of bifurcation. So basically one set of rules, and that's what basically the USGA somewhere in here are talking about a local rule. So PGA Tour events or USGA events would have a local rule. So imagine like, okay, from now on, if in the US Open, there's going to be a game ball. Just like in Major League Baseball, there's a ball that's the official ball of Major League Baseball. There is a basketball that's the official basketball. Nobody would ever say baseball like, okay, the Astros use this kind of ball and the Dodgers use that kind of ball. They would never. It's one ball for everybody. One of the cool things about golf is like there's different styles of player. So you like to have a different ball. Say like, okay, like Tiger really likes a super spinny ball. Phil likes, say some other player like Dustin Johnson or something wants a much more low spin ball. So you want to accommodate people to have these differences in style to their equipment, but so it would be a limited ball, but then certain things would be able to be adjusted. So at first, I like it's always been so cool in golf to say like, hey, I played the same rules that the best player in the world did, and I shot even par. That's something very cool to say. The more disconnected people feel from what the guys are doing on TV, and it's such a big deal, what happens on TV to the recreational game. If it feels to players that they really start materially feeling that they're playing a different game than what they're seeing on TV, because even though it is a totally different game, people are, they're feeling like okay, it's a club, it's a ball, I'm doing what Tiger's doing. And you got to keep that feeling going. Profile Mugshot says, accepting the public are too dumb to work out golf rules was the first sign of a failing education system. I don't think that has to do with this. All right, Ray Brubaker says, doesn't your handicap make up for the difference? We saw that. What's it? Dolphin says, great work, Be Better Golf. Thank you. Elite players should have restrictions like other sports. Yeah, so like in baseball, like aluminum bats are in Little League and college baseball, but they use wooden bats in the pros. So that would be like a... All right, let each tournament host choose the best ball for their tournament, plus too much run in the fairways. All right, that's a huge difference. Whenever I've gone and played like a PGA Tour course, like TPC, what did I play in Connecticut? Whatever that course is that they played the Travelers at. I've played these PGA Tour courses, and then even out in like Palm Springs when I played, or in La Quinta when I played those courses, the amount of roll you get on a PGA Tour course is ridiculous. And they say, oh, we're trying to make it harder because we wanted to hit the fairway, and if it's a little offline, we wanted to run into the rough. That's not really that big of a disadvantage. It's to me, having played on both kinds of courses, it's much more difficult to play on a course that has longer and softer fairways where you get like 10 yards of roll than it would be if you have a firm, fast fairway and you hit it in the fairway and then it rolls off into the rough. Because I would rather be 40 yards further, and that's what the roll is on some of these PGA Tour courses, ridiculous. I'd rather be 40 yards further and have it roll into the first cut or into the fringe rather than 40 yards back and perfectly in the fairway. It's like it's a big game. It's a big help to be that much further down and to be able to use more loft and control your ball into the green more. So they're probably, and there's probably reasons why, and one of the reasons is it looks really good on TV when the fairways are like that. But it's crazy. I know at the Masters, one of the things, and I think it made a little bit of a difference, they started mowing the grass towards the tee box. But my brother is a big proponent for limiting the golf ball, and what he always says is like, okay, now because tee shots are going so much further with driver, and they are at the elite level of the game, because they're going so much further, you have to change the golf course itself. You have to like redesign it. You have to put in a new tee. You have to change the slopes of the greens. You have to put in more trees, put in longer, bigger bunkers. You have to like do all these things. You have to mow the grass in a certain way. You have to change like all these different things, which is like super expensive across everything. Or you could just change the ball, and that's what he's saying. Like, is that limit the ball? So I don't want to like tell golfers that are like normal golfers, like, hey, like, how you're hitting it 220 yards, like we're going to change the ball. You're going to start hitting it 205 because Dustin Johnson hits a 350 every once in a while. Like that's like probably a bridge too far. But I think there is a way to construct it where just to balance things out where it's not such a crazy advantage to have really crazy speed on your driver swing. One of the things I think, I don't know if they're thinking about this, but I would be very interested to see if, like, okay, what if we change the composition of the shaft? It has to be a certain weighting to be a little bit closer to what steel was. And also, I think the drivers are just too big. Being able to have it on that tee and get that upward angle and just kill it all over the face, it's probably too big. Probably the perfect size of a driver to actually look like the game of golf. And I didn't start playing golf until after it was 460. But I still always felt that, like, about 350, 300, 360, that looks really good. And that kind of looks more like a golf club. Remember, they didn't start in golf. They didn't start with wooden tees. Yeah, 350. That's a really good looking club at 350. They didn't start with wooden tees. They used to have like a little clump because you were putting the ball on the ground and the teeing area, but you were allowed to kind of like hit the ground or like build up the dirt. They used to like just like build up dirt and put their ball on top of that. And then that evolved into the tee. And there is a huge advantage in being able to hit up on it. If the club head was smaller, I think that would do something. Yeah, old drivers were even smaller than what 3-woods are now. Imagine if they hadn't put the stop on driver size. Yeah. So that's what you're making a point that Brandel Chambly and a lot of people are making. Is that, okay, once they put in certain restrictions where the moment of inertia, or the COR, like the coefficient of restitution, like how much remains, how much spring is off the face. I think that's what it is. And also the 460 cc's, once that became the max and once they put certain limits on it, it really hasn't changed. I've seen it, it's changed. Somewhere in my playlist, you'll see when I visited My Golf Spy and I tested the new, it was like M4 driver versus remember the driver that was so big for TaylorMade, the Quad? So I tested the M4 driver versus the Quad. There was a huge difference. Everything else was the same. They were both X-stiff shafts, but I hit a new golf ball like 20 yards further on the M4 than I did the Quad. Now, from year to year, drivers don't change that much. It's incremental. But for like a span of over like 6 or 7 years, they're way better now. Like, you can't play. Like, I love the Callaway FT5 driver. I used to love the way it sounded, and I remember like hitting bombs on it. And I still have it. So I was like not liking my driver one day. So I went back and I took it out to the course, and you just can't play with a Callaway FT5 anymore. This is it's like a 2011 or 2012 driver. You can't play with that anymore. It doesn't go anywhere compared to a Maverick. Oh my God, how much further would the Callaway Maverick go than the Callaway FT5? It's a big difference. So, but definitely, I would say that something needs to be done. It's just not. It's just ridiculous. Like how much of an advantage the driver is. Like, I think it always will be, regardless of what the rules are, what they change the rules to be. It will always be a crazy advantage to be faster, longer, more athletic. It always will be, regardless of what you do. But right now, it is like because of the way the equipment is and everything else, it's just such an advantage to have the ability to hit the golf ball like over 320 yards, that it starts to not really look like a game of skill. That's why I always said there's a big debate. Like, people say like, oh, is golf a sport? Is golf, what is golf? And like, oh, golf's not even a sport. Like, I don't think golf is a sport. And I don't think golf is best served as thinking of it as a sport. I think it's always been the game of golf. I think golf should be thought of as a game. That was one of the things that attracted me to golf when I first started playing it, because I had played not organized, but like team sports all growing up and everything. And it always felt like, oh, you're at the mercy of like, some coach putting you in the game for baseball, and you only get to hit like once every 9 times if you're lucky. And with golf, it was like you just go out there and you work hard at it, and you can get really, really good. that's a game. That's like pool or bowling or darts or things like that. And golf is a mix because there's certainly a huge athletic component to it. But I think the balance needs to be shifted a little bit more. Go through your comments a little bit more, guys. Right. All right. How was Mike Austin able to hit it 515 yards in 1974? Did he come back to the future? Well, I talked to Mike Austin's biographer, and somewhere around here I have a file that it's like this thick with all Mike Austin clippings and documents. And I talked to some. It'd be funny if you really talk to these physicists and doctors and stuff. There's a lot of them who believe that we don't like. If you just talk to like somebody who casually observes science, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's just A plus B equals C. What you put in is what you get out." But there's a lot of doctors and PhDs that I've been talking to that are saying that there's another force that you see in golf in hockey when guys talk about, oh, like he has a really heavy puck, and or in baseball where it's like, say two pitchers are both throwing at 95 miles an hour, but another guy's pitch just feels a lot heavier in the hand of the catcher. And there might be another force at play, and that's what Phil Reed, his biographer, was saying, that Mike Austin for that one day might have tapped into another force at play that is beyond our understanding of physics. I don't know if you buy that or whatever, but in a lot of the stuff I'm reading about science, the more you get into it, the more you realize that a lot of the basic assumptions of science have been taken for granted and haven't really been proven. And a lot of things, so if you go all the way back to it, it's so I think he actually did hit it 515 yards, and I don't think we totally know exactly why he was able to do that at 60 something years old. Well, yeah, somebody says Rick Shields has a couple videos where he tested a decade or so of different TaylorMade drivers, and he saw very little difference. I saw a very big difference in the R9 and the M4. I saw a big difference, and that was on a Foresight. I've said before, at this rate, everyone at golf clubs will look like roided up gym dudes. Yeah, like that's what Gary Player said. Like, can you imagine like golfers are looking more athletic, but like what about like when you get like the LeBron James of golf, like somebody as athletic and as big as LeBron James, and they're playing golf. Like you want, like distance should be rewarded. Being able to do something and be that precise with it and still hit it straight should be rewarded, and it always will be rewarded. But should golf, like, you know, like if Kyle Berkshire wants to play on the tour, like he wants to play, he knows that his chances for the regular tour are off because he hasn't played enough tournament golf, but he wants to eventually, like, because he's young still, play on the tour or on the Champions Tour. If a guy like Kyle Berkshire comes out and he can really do the other things, just like, let's say like to like a normal wins against replacement kind of level of normal PGA Tour player, everything else the same, but he was hitting 220 miles an hour of club head speed off the tee, he would win every week. Nobody would, like if he had, let's just take Jeff Ogilvy. If he had Jeff Ogilvy's, he's an amazing putter, so that's probably a bad example. Let's just take a run-in-the-mill tour pro, like let's say like whoever, Pat Perez. If Kyle Berkshire, if Pat Perez did everything that he does, but he had a 220 mile an hour club head speed, he would never lose. It would be like Tiger Woods beyond whatever. And somebody's going to do that eventually one day. And then 5 people are going to do that. And then 20 people are going to do that. And then you're going to see basically golf will become a long drive contest with some like some like kind of creativeness at the very, very end. And then like, you know, making putters. All right, many amateurs buy a new driver because they believe it can gain 10 more yards. If PGA enforced the new rule to shorten the performance of the club, the game of golf will go out of business. All right, this is the other thing, is that This is the other thing everybody's talks about, like grow the game. Like, do you guys think like golf can survive if like 10% of the people who are playing golf now played golf, golf would be fine. If like 90% of golfers stopped playing golf, golf would be all right. It would just be golf would become what it was in like 1920. It would be it would be reserved for like the ultimate richest, you know, sect of people. You know, because if 90% of golfers were gone, then you know it would to buy a set of golf clubs would become like $15,000 or something. You know, because there would be no market in it. Nobody would care, and everything would be like custom made. So golf will be fine either way. It's just not going to be fun, and it's not going to be. It's just going to be like a way different game. So definitely, golf is so insanely difficult to be good at. There needs to be another way of getting people to a certain level of fun and proficiency at this end, at the bottom end, right? And at the top end, it needs to becoming a little bit more balanced in the skills that it takes um, to do really well on tour. And I think you would see, like, I think a guy like Phil Mickelson or Tiger Woods, if let's say they froze the golf ball and the driver at 2002 levels, Tiger would have 25 majors probably. Well, maybe not 20, 22. He definitely would have beaten Jack's record. I think Phil would have Phil would have like won the U.S. Open by now and done some other things. I think the top guys will beat the other guys a lot more when the equipment is balanced out, and it really rewards the best players more. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. I got to go to get the kids from school. Click the subscribe button, click the like button if you're still watching, just so that this gets, I want this to go up to the top of what you guys think. All your comments are saved, and we're going to go through them later. And also go over to Instagram. I'm going to be posting more stuff about this and also some charts on Instagram. BB_golf show. So follow me on Instagram. I really appreciate that. I'm trying to get that going a little bit more. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye. All right, see you, Ronnie. Bye, guys. Bye, Chris.